I don't feel bad for Black Americans who are now choosing still to vote Democrat, because if you see Kamala Harris is pushing out there as of late, of course, she made the comment when she was running for president the first time about her. Of course, I'm not gonna say I'm doing anything for Black Americans, only for them.
So I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm gonna do something that's only gonna benefit Black people. No.
That should be your first hint that she wasn't for us. That should be your first hint that she's not Black American. She is other. She is a child of immigrants, okay? So her allegiance is not going to be to Black Americans, even though this is where she works. This is who she has a civil duty to work for. And she's still just showing you guys and telling you guys she's not for you.
You support reparations for Black people.
Well, listen, again, we had over 200 years of slavery. We had Jim Crow for almost a century. We had legalized discrimination and segregation, and now we have segregation and discrimination that is not legal but still exists and is a barrier to progress. We have disparities around housing. We have disparities around education. We have disparities around income. And we have to recognize that everybody did not start out on an equal footing in this country. And in particular, Black people have not. And so we have got to recognize that and do something about that and give folks a lift up. That's why, for example, I'm proposing the LIFT Act. Give people who are making $100,000 or less as a family a tax credit, which will benefit and uplift 60% of Black families who are in poverty.
So by default, it affects Black families, but there's not a particular policy for African Americans that you would explore.
But no, if you look at the reality of who will benefit from certain policies, when you take into account that they're not starting at the same place and they're not starting on equal footing, it will directly benefit Black children, Black families, Black homeowners, because the disparities are so significant. So if we focus on the specific issues that have resulted in the greatest disparities, and we understand that that's part of why we're doing it. Listen, the reality also is this: any policy that will benefit Black people will benefit all of society. Let's be clear about that. Let's really be clear about that. So I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm gonna do something that's only gonna benefit Black people. No.
You Black Americans. Also, she just put out something else, saying that she agrees that she will push for, and get this, immigrants getting reparations because of the way they've been treated. I'm sorry, you're giving criminals reparations for the way they've been treated when you come into a country illegally?
We also need offensive actions around prosecutions. We need real accountability, because at the end of the day, the people that have been inflicting this harm need to be prosecuted. They need to be brought before us, and they need to be held account for the trauma that they have created, and we are going to have some form of reparation.
Yeah, you're a criminal. If you come to this country illegally, you are a criminal.
To somehow suggest that an undocumented immigrant is a criminal. Being an undocumented immigrant is not a crime. I know what a crime looks like. An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal. 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 An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal, and we have to correct course in this conversation. We're not going to treat people who are undocumented and cross the border as criminals. That's correct.
So, for her to say she wants to give money to criminals, that's like out of this fucking world. That's fucking crazy. But she's telling you guys who her allegiance is to.
In our country are having an experience that is not equal. So when we talk about the work we are doing here together, it is recognizing that and being guided by this principle of what we must do in the spirit and in the interest of equity. To put equity firmly at the center of our economic policy.
Non-Black Americans and non-Americans. Because she is first generation. Okay? So, when you're first generation, when you're second generation, you ain't American. Your allegiance is to the country you're from. to the country that when you walk into your home, your parents' home, and they are honoring their country, Jamaica, Trinity, Guyana, wherever, that's where you're from. Y'all know the first half about what it takes to be a true American, and the lineage, and the trauma, and the pain. So before you vote Democrat, make sure you know what Kamala and all these other people, Joe Biden, all the rest of them, Obama, all of them. Obama, Biden, all of them. Kamala. Now she wants to take our talking points, talking about transactional voting.
The last point I would say on this, Rev, and I think I know it's a bit controversial, but here's how I feel about this. You know how I was talking earlier about how people are so transactional? I think we need to be transactional voters. I think, yes, it is right when we are trying to get folks to register to vote and to go vote, and it is absolutely right that we remind everyone of our history, especially when they're trying to erase it. We remind people of the lives, the bloodshed on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, the sacrifice of those young people at the lunch counter, the assassination of Dr. King. There are so many things that we must remember about history so that what compels us to vote includes not only our civic duty, but honoring the ancestors. Yes, and here's what I'm suggesting in addition. Get yours. Vote and say, I'm voting because I expect something out of this. You're not going to take for granted that I'm going to vote because I'm a good citizen and it's my civic duty to vote, so that you don't even worry about whether you're producing what I need because, oh, we can count on them to vote because they remember the Edmund Pettus Bridge. I'm saying it's okay to also give people permission to be transactional. And to say, if you're going to get my vote, this is what I expect. I'm going to vote because I expect something to get...
Yeah, bitch. Transactional voting. Do something transactional for Black Americans. Stop using us for polling times and when there's an election or where there's midterms and you need our vote and our bodies to be out there in the front lines. No more, bitch. No more, bitch. Try that shit in Jamaica. Where you from? Ain't you Jamaican? There will be some black people. Oh, you are xenophobic. You are crazy because she's a black woman. No, she is a Caribbean, Afro-Caribbean woman. Afro-Caribbean woman with West Indian descent or heritage. Okay. Please, Black American woman. Get the fuck out of here.
People of India and to Indian Americans, I stand before you as the first candidate for Vice President of the United States of South Asian descent.
Our dear friend will be the first Indian American Vice President in the history of the United States of America, Kamala Harris.
As many of you know, generations of my family come from India. My mother was born and raised in India, and I have family members who live in India today.
Asian Americans are the fastest growing population here in North Carolina, and among that, Indian Americans are driving a lot of that growth right here in the Triangle, drawn to the tech, science, and medical fields. Now, some are hoping to see Kamala Harris make history as the first South Asian in the highest office in the country.
Senator Kamala Harris will be the first person of Indian heritage to be nominated for vice president on a major party ticket.
The first Indian American woman to be nominated as a vice presidential candidate in America.
And California's Attorney General Kamala Harris has scripted history as she won the U.S. Senate seat from the state, becoming the first Indian American to achieve this feat.
And certainly you could become the first Indian senator in U.S. history, which would be quite an accomplishment.
Not good.
You chose a running mate, Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, who signed those very things into state law. So do you support that?
We are very clear, and I am very clear, as is Tim Walz, that we must support and enforce federal law, and that is exactly what we will do.
I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No.